us. We have Attorney General of the great state of Louisiana, Mr. Jeff Landry. Jeff, how you doing, brother?
It's wonderful, Moon. Great to be on the air with you again.
Well, it's great to have you. And I will tell people, I called Jeff. I wanted to get him on. I really called to thank you. By the way, the thank you is you were the first one really to challenge the crime stuff that was going on in New Orleans. And, dude, it's just blown up. And by the way, a lot of the information you get on what's happening in New Orleans is out of the press corps in New Orleans, who's really worried about their beautiful city with the crime, the shootings, the murders. It's become, state, as you know, I don't have to tell you this, the state police are still down there. And we got a mayor that's down there worried about man-made global warming.
Oh, yeah, look, he's worried about the sea level rise over the next 200 years in New Orleans. And if the murder rate continues, there'll be nobody left, regardless of what the sea level is.
I agree. But, that's why I wanted to thank you. I said, Jeff, you were on this. You were on the beginning. You want to do something about New Orleans. Our state police is still there. And this guy's talking about man-made global warming, telling me he thinks he can be president now.
Well, let me tell you something. Mitch Landrieu is he's an ultimate failure, okay, at leadership. Anyone who has driven around the city of New Orleans, looked at the condition of the roads, the infrastructure, the crime rate, the place is falling apart. To think that he'd want to run the country would be just, it's mind-blowing to me. But, Moon, just to walk all the listeners out there into the sequence of events that happened, it was literally about a year ago, right around the 4th of July, when we announced a special task force that we put together in order to work the Essence Festival on the 4th of July weekend. We put the task force together because a number of business owners at that time, a year ago, had said, look, we need to do more in the quarter. Now, look, if we remember, the state police has been in that quarter for about 4, 5, maybe 6 years now. The Louisiana taxpayers, so taxpayers across the entire state are footing the bill.
How much is that, Jeff? It's got to be hundreds of thousands of dollars, huh? Or more than that?
Hundreds?
Millions?
No. It's millions of dollars. Millions of dollars that we spent down there. So we went down there. We put a special task force together. We ran a couple of operations. We recognized what the problem was. There's no doubt that the state police have had an impact on there, but we needed to do more. We need to bring some undercover investigators out there. We recognized that pushing the crime just out of the quarter wasn't going to solve the problem, right? Because they're good citizens that live outside the quarter in the city of New Orleans. They deserve proper law enforcement and safety as well. We expanded it. We worked with business leaders. For that, we were basically shown the front door. The mayor said, we don't want you in the city. We had a federal judge out there who said we needed to be a part of their consent decree. We said no. We continued to try to push back. We made a number of overtures towards the mayor. Never have had a phone call received or returned as of today. Okay? And we just ended up really pulling back to a large scale and just went work in other communities around there because I wasn't going to subject our investigators to the type of environment that's going on in the city. I'm not talking about the crime scene. I'm talking about the federal judge who's down there overseeing this consent decree. I'm talking about the mayor making threats, basically saying that we have no authority to be in the city of New Orleans. And I said all along, I said it in November of last year, I said it in December, I said it again in the spring, that the epidemic of crime that is sweeping the city is getting out of control. And each and every time we set the benchmarks, we said this was going to happen, and sure enough, it's happened.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is you were actually trying to do something to help because you know this, you were a congressman, you've been around the country a little bit. A lot of times when people think of Louisiana, first thing they think of is New Orleans. There's no cut on anywhere else. It's not my favorite place to go, but a lot of people love to go to New Orleans. That's fine. But they do think of New Orleans. Well, if they only seeing headlines of killings and murders and this and that doesn't sit well with the state of Louisiana. And I think I'm guessing that's the angle you're coming from.
Absolutely. Well, and let me tell you something. It impacts our fiscal situation in Baton Rouge because New Orleans is a major draw for tourists around the state. It brings tax dollars into the state, and so it has an impact on the state treasury. And so we're still trying to find some solutions. I spoke to some people last week You know, and you know what, Moon? Here's the problem. The solution to getting it under control is really not that difficult to initiate. Okay, it is a multi-dimensional problem, but to put us on the right path, it's not difficult. We have to lift the consent decree or modify the Obama-era consent decree that city is under. And, of course, this was easy. I mean, let me tell you, the Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch and them instituted this in a multitude of cities with liberal mayors such as Mitch Landrieu, who agreed to basically federalize their police departments. And all of those cities who under those consent decree, almost 100% of them, have seen a spike in their crime. It's easy because it institutes hug-a-thug type policies that are counterproductive.
Hug a thug. I ain't never heard it put like that.
I mean, it just is.
I'm not arguing with you. I like the term. Hug a thug.
I mean, you know, and the sad part is, you've got a Democratic mayor, right?
Yep.
Mitch Landrieu, who claims that he represents, you know, minorities. And guess what? If you look at the faces of the victims in the city of New Orleans, I went out and did some radio out there as well and talked about this. If you look at the faces of the victims, you would find that the majority of the victims out there are members of the minority community.
Oh, man.
Okay, those neighborhoods have been basically turned into war zones, and the mayor is doing absolutely nothing.
No.
He goes to Washington, D.C., and only discusses the president's involvement in pulling out of the Paris Accord.
Yeah, that's it. He's an expert on that now.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
Right, what you do, though, Jeff, when you failed as a mayor, and he's really failed, what you do is you get people to think about something else. But I'm going to say it again, people outside New Orleans that like to go to New Orleans, great place to go have fun, food, all that stuff. They're a little leery, and then people outside the state will eventually be like that too because of the failure of the mayor. And you're right, I talk about it all the time. What if the press would go look at what's been done in all inner cities, they'd never vote Democrat again. They could never vote Democrat ever in their life.
And I met with the editorial board of the Advocate and the Picayune, okay, over the last 12 months, talked about this very issue. And all they kept saying was that I was picking on the mayor and that it was all politics. I was like, no, guys, this is not about politics. This is about public safety. We talked about the sanctuary city issue down in New Orleans. Of course, you know, the mayor had that issue. Then he turned to you removed the monuments. And now that the monuments are gone, the crime still hadn't gotten any better because, you know, according to the mayor, as soon as he got the monuments removed, then, you know, everybody was going to be able to hold hands and sing Kumbaya in New Orleans. Going to be peace at last. And nothing has happened. So, you know, now it's global warming is what's causing the crime rate to spike in New Orleans.
Yeah, it's amazing. Global warming, just getting rid of monuments. If you could get peace and sing Kumbaya, we could remove every monument, and then we ought to all be on the same page. But it doesn't work that way, and that's all smoke and mirrors. Jeff Landry, Attorney General, my special guest. I did. I really called you to say, Jeff, thank you, because you were the ones that pointed this out. You were the ones that said it. You took all the hits in the press because the press, the sycophants, are going to keep defending the left. And the problem is, if our biggest and baddest city, the one everybody falls in love with and loves to go to, is having problems, it's because of the leadership. And the leadership is led by one Mitch Landrieu. Well,
Moon, I tell you what, you're welcome. I'm not going to stop our fight to ensure that the citizens of this state have safe communities. But I will tell you, though, I'm concerned about the safety of Louisiana as a whole because the crime rate that you're seeing spiking in New Orleans is going to metastasize like a cancer. Okay, it's going to continue to spread around the state. We've seen it in big cities like Shreveport, even in Monroe, some of those areas, even around here. You've seen some spike in violent crime. And I'm going to tell you, I wrote a big editorial about this during the session. There's this big movement towards doing criminal justice reform. I will tell you right now, our criminal justice system absolutely needs to be reformed. I can tell you that the direction and the package that the governor's criminal justice reform task committee or task force, of which I was not asked to be a part of, even though I run the Department of Justice. If we would have passed that package, okay, it would have been an ultimate failure on the public safety of this state.
I can believe that.
And I'm going to tell you, it is going to do nothing to ensuring that our citizens are kept safe. In fact, it's going to have an opposite effect. It's going to be bad. If we want to do criminal justice reform, we need to understand that we need to invest in on the front end like we did in Texas. We need to make sure that violent criminals stay behind bars, okay, and that bad people are put in jail. And again, that's the problem we're having in the city of New York. But if you ask Mitch Landrieu, he spent $30 million putting HD cameras in the city of New Orleans while he cut the budget of the district attorney. So we're going to watch the crime in HD,
okay,
right, in high definition, and no one's going to be able to put them behind bars.
Yeah, I saw today where they're putting cameras up, and that bothers me because we start off with cameras at the red lights. Now we're going to start off with cameras, and pretty soon everybody's going to have cameras everywhere, and the government will be watching everybody do everything. You're right. We'll be able to watch people do that because we're not taking care of it before whatever happens. And with the leadership of Mitch Landrieu, how would you like for that to be president?
Oh, word. Yeah, I mean, look, we can't take it him in Louisiana, but look, listen, if California wants to take, maybe California take him and make him become governor. It'd be great over there.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, between him and Moonbeam, Jerry Brown, woo, you think California's headed to hell in a handbasket. All righty, Jeff Landry. Jeff, God bless, man.